Okay.
Meeting her again like this, just what was I supposed to say to her? I want to help her, but Yumi insisted that everything should remain the way things used to be.
Support her decision. I should think of another way to help. Supporting decision might be a good idea. But thinking about another way to help might be a good idea as well. I mean, I don't know what I mean. Maybe some ritual. Okay, let's go with that.
Thinking about it, I had no solid proof that Yumi and the girl I saw at the hospital room were actually tied together by their minds. For all I know, Yuki could just be a side personality Yumi had developed due to the trauma that the loss of her sister caused.
Nope, I don't think so.
If it's like that, then why should I tiptoe around her problem and play along with this make-believe? Shouldn't there be a better way to solve all this?
Was it a bad idea to choose that option?
Yumi would probably be taken to a psychologist if anyone else was to find out about her condition, but what about Yuki? Either way, shouldn't that still be a better solution than letting her believe in her own illusion? I figured I had to start from somewhere, before Yumi would end up losing her mind completely.
That was a bad choice.
With that in mind, I opened the conversation with Yuki.
That was a bad choice.
Yuki, no, Yumi, isn't it about time you put a stop to all this? You do know what I'm talking about, don't you? Sharing your body with your sister's soul, yeah, right.
Crap.
Isn't it more likely you're only pretending since you're afraid of losing her? Afraid that she'd never wake up again?
God damn it, why did I choose that?
I know you can hear me, Yumi, so why don't you answer? I would have probably said more, though it was obvious that I had already said too much. There was no answer. She only stared at me with a confused expression on her face.
So stupid.
I'm sorry. I said too much. I left in a hurry. I knew I had done a mistake, and somehow just being in the same room was too much for me right now. Yumi was still silent, but I could guess she wasn't too excited either.
God damn it. Seriously, thinking about telling something like this is not a help. God damn it. That's not what I meant by
Afterward, I went straight to home, where I'd lie on my bed, aimlessly staring at the ceiling. I knew that wasn't going to solve anything, but I felt so terrible about myself. There wasn't much else I could have thought of. What was that look on her face? It was as if she had no idea what I was trying to say. Either her trauma somehow locks away Yumi's personality, or the two really are connected. Whichever it was, I had probably been in the wrong, though. If I tried to help her, I'd only hurt her in the process. In the end, I did apologize to Yumi, but while nothing had been solved, both of us somehow understood that keeping a distance was probably for the better.
And God damn it. No, we are playing this again.
It was spring.
Can we skip?
A new class, new...
Okay. I guess you like reading.
I guess you like reading?
That skipping button is amazing. God damn it. Another way to help. That's not what I thought it would mean. Support her decision.
I guess in the end, I should still trust Yuki and Yumi and let them deal with this in their own way. I figured that's what a true friend should do anyway. Hi again, Yuki. How's your story coming then?
Sorry. I haven't started yet, actually.
However, she seemed pretty excited nonetheless, as if she was itching to get started. Maybe it was my support that she had actually been waiting for. As if. Soon enough, Yuki would start writing, scribbling on a tiny notebook with a pencil. Her pace was pretty slow as she would only write a word or two at a time, pondering each for several minutes. Naturally, you'd get sort of curious on what she was pondering on so deeply.
So, what's it about?
No! You can't see it yet.
Give me a break, Miss Ryder. We were gonna put that on the newsletter eventually, you know. Either way, Yuki seemed to have a pretty good idea of what she wanted to do. Meanwhile, I was still trying to figure out what to write about. But the problem was, I didn't even know where to start. It is often said that you should just write about what you know, but at the age of 16, it's not like I would have experience with all that much to begin with. I feel that I had just barely got over that embarrassing phase when I thought of myself as more unique than anyone else. But after accepting this much, what was left of myself?
Why writing
Thinking
about
along
yourself?
those lines, I wandered inside my mind's scenery without a direction. Just when I thought that I had found a clue of some sort, I lost the sight of it again. Then, hearing a voice, I snapped out of my daydreams and back to reality.
If you'd like to read it.
She passed the notebook my way, and I saw a passage of words written haphazardly, with rubber stripes here and there.
The girl was broken, incomplete. Whether she had been that way from the beginning, or if something had happened to her in the past, the girl could not tell, for she had no memories. As
Whoa.
she turned her head, she realized her right arm was missing. Only a short stump remained attached at her shoulder, with various cords coming out. Plenty of other parts were missing as well. The girl had no legs, only her left arm was functioning properly. And most importantly, she had no heart. The
What
girl
is
was
it about?
mechanical, a machine.
Okay.
There was a mountain of wreckage in the middle of the cold, desolate wasteland. Perhaps the girl had been abandoned here, or maybe someone else had tried to put her together from the various mechanical parts left here. Either way, the girl was alone.
At first, I was surprised when the broken girl turned out to be a robot or something along those lines. But as I kept reading, the image of a wasteland at the world's end was painted before my eyes. There was something infinitely lovely and melancholic about all this. I had to wonder if there was some deeper meaning with the girl and this bleak gray world.
Why is it lovely when you see lonely here?
Whoa. That's a bit...
I wanted to write it so that it would surprise the reader.
Well, that's what she did. Still, I couldn't bring myself to ask about the story itself.
It's a dream that I once saw. I didn't know what to make of it, but I thought that writing it into a story could help.
I see.
As if I really did. It's more like I was too confused to say anything even remotely smart. Either way, that's how the day unfolded. And another one came. Yuki and I were writing our stories at the library again, but that being said, Yuki was doing all the actual writing, while I was scrapping one idea after another. Everything I came up with either resembled something else too much or was way too long or vague to write out. My thoughts were cut off when Yuki asked me to read the continuation of her story. I took a moment to appreciate the embarrassed expression on her face before glancing down on the pages of the notebook.
Can't wait to hear that.
By using her left arm, the girl could move by dragging herself across the wreckage. It was slow and cumbersome, and once before, the girl had stumbled down from the mountain. But she could feel no pain or frustration, for she was only a machine. The only thing left in her mind was to search for her missing parts in order to complete herself. Various mechanical parts laid scattered across the mountain of wreckage. Some of them were huge while others were tiny and delicate. Only some of the parts would fit, while others had to be discarded. The story seemed to be progressing. While the girl's fate was lonesome, there was still some hope. If she were trying to complete herself, what would she become? I thought to myself.
Seems like it's going somewhere. Think you'll be able to finish it?
Instead of answering, she turned away, gazing into the distance and clutching her knee. When she finally answered, she spoke with an absent-minded tone.
It's like the words are being forced out of me. I don't know where they come from, but it feels as if they have always been inside me.
An awkward silence followed as she continued gazing off to the distance. I had the feeling that maybe I had asked something I shouldn't have.
Oh well. At least you've got something to write. Meanwhile, I'm just throwing out one idea after another.
It was like she snapped out of something as she turned back and hurried with her words.
Maybe you're being too hard on yourself. If it's just a short story, maybe you could write about a personal experience or a journey of some sort.
I'll give it a try. Thanks.
No, it wasn't much.
Well, for him it was much. He's not very creative, I guess. So far.
Perhaps she was right. Maybe I had been trying too much. When I gave it all another thought, it hit me. I knew what I was going to write about. When I finally got started, I finished the whole story in one sitting. Maybe that was because I was only writing about myself, and so there was no need to think. This is something that happened about 3 years ago when I was 13 or so. Why am I writing about it now?
I have a bad, weird feeling that he might be connected with that accident somehow.
Maybe part of the reason is that I'm really embarrassed of myself when I think back to those times, and writing about it like this could make it seem as if I had grown up and learned something. But when I think about it, I'm not all that sure if I'm any smarter these days. To start this story, back then I had the habit of taking the local train and riding all the way to the last station.
Or maybe not.
Sometimes I'd walk to the abandoned buildings, linger around the industrial district, or just take out my bicycle and pedal as far as I could. If someone had stopped me to ask what I was actually doing, my answer would have been something along the lines of, to seek solitude. Apparently I thought there was something cool about being alone. Well, this incident was something like that. In my town, there's this huge abandoned radio tower. While it has no use, they still haven't taken it down either, so it just stands there, gazing over the little town where nothing happens.
There are a lot of things in my city like that.
The said radio tower was located on the outskirts of the town, on top of a small hill. That's why you could always see the tower wherever you went in this little town. It was surrounded by a fence, so common sense would tell you that entry was prohibited. Of course, that wouldn't stop someone like myself. I had been making preparations for days now. While I knew how to enter the tower and how to climb up to the top, there was still the problem of being seen. There was only one solution.
The invisible code.
So when the night came, I took my flashlight and sneaked out of the house, heading towards the outskirts of the town.
Okay.
It was 2 a.m.
night.
on a weekday, so the streets were completely empty. I didn't want to be seen by anyone, at least by an adult, since they probably wouldn't understand all this.
After 10 minutes later, I had finally made it to the radio tower.
The old chain link fence that surrounded the tower actually had a small hole in the back, so there was no need to try climbing over it. The tower itself was not much else but metal structures. A ladder was located inside the structures, and finally there were a few platforms, probably used for the maintenance purposes when the tower was still in use. The whole structure was painted with red and white paint that had started to show its age. The metal bars were laid out in the shape of triangles and squares, while the whole tower stood maybe 20 to 30 meters tall.
Not very much, I guess.
Well, it's now or never, I thought, while staring at the metal pole that reached towards the sky on top of the tower. And so, my trip upwards started. Thanks to the various lights on the town, it wasn't really all that dark. but I was still pretty careful while I climbed the ladder upwards ever so slowly. There was a distinct metallic sound every time my feet hit the ladder, and I struggled to concentrate in order to maintain my cool and not look downwards. Soon enough, I reached the first platform, which was pretty much the halfway point on this ascent. No need to stop, just keep going, I told myself. But it was obvious that I was already starting to have second thoughts on this whole idea. It was getting harder and harder not to look down. I tried closing my eyes, but it clearly wasn't the smartest idea. I almost lost my balance on the very next step. I settled on staring at the ladder itself, taking it step by step, and eventually I reached the top. Well, not so much the top of the tower, but the last platform. The metal antennas strapped on the mast stood higher still, but this was as high as I could climb. I slumped down on the platform, leaning against the structure and let out an empty sigh. Thinking back, what was on my mind when I settled on this idea? Probably something like a lone warrior gazing down from the highest point. Well, there was nothing even remotely cool about this solitude. Just a scared kid that had climbed a bit too high for his own good. I could probably understand that much even back then. It was just then when I noticed it for the first time. That starry sky and the lights of the small town. There was something downright magical about it, but I was just way too focused to notice all this earlier.
By the way, anyone scared of heights here?
While I had learned that each of the tiny lights was supposed to be a star, not much unlike our own sun, this was probably the first time I really thought about it. I wondered how many planets like ours were out there, or what the people up there might have been doing. Little green men, data life forms, AIs, alternate realities? Staring at this view of near infinite space, it felt like anything was possible. Suddenly, I felt like that realization alone had made this climb worthwhile.
True.
Though on the next day, I found out that I had managed to catch the worst cold in my entire life. I guess that's what you get for sneaking out at night. As I wasted the precious days of my summer vacation lying in my bed, I decided that solitude, or whatever, wasn't really my thing. In the end, the whole thing was sort of meaningless, like a long-winded skit with a punchline that didn't really sink. But for a newsletter, I guess this would do. If this doesn't get someone thinking, I can do better than that. I guess nothing will.